Have you guys seen Jackass yet?
No. Have you?
No,
Yeah, I saw it opening night.
God damn it. I'm so jealous. I really
haven't-
want to see it. I wanted to see it in theaters with the crowd. I really wanted. I thought that'd be like the perfect time to watch that film. But
I am so behind on Jackass. I don't think I've seen Jackass 3.
man,
Are you
I don't think there's
serious?
lore that carries over. Jackass 3 is really good.
3 is really good.
And
3 might be my favorite, honestly.
3 is my favorite. 3 is the one I've seen most.
given like the sort of stuff I'm interested in, like conceptually, like intellectually and stuff, it's also very cool that way too. And I also
Have you seen
just love
Inception? It's pretty good
the
too.
buttfuckery of it. Yeah, Inception. I like Inception.
It's not great.
But yeah, I don't know. I want to see because I barely remember Jackass 1. I remember Jackass 2 a little better, but 3.
I don't recall Jackass 1 at all. Jackass 2 I have some memories of, and 3, Manny, is I think so funny. It's so funny.
I really love 1. I've seen that one maybe the most. 2, I haven't really seen that much because they never showed that on TV when we were growing up because it's far too like raunchy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And 3, I feel like it hits the perfect balance of just everything that Jackass does and was at the time a very nice send-off. It obviously didn't keep, but
Like there's a point of like the big hand that slaps the people walking into the kitchen. Perfect, like stupid silliness. And then there's Steve-O getting bungee shot in a porta potty full of shit, and it's like, yeah, this is perfect. The Dave England when he remember the little choo-choo train scene, Andres?
yeah.
That one's my
great.
favorite one. When I was working at a big box store, I met Dave England and I saw his young daughter and his young son, and in my head I'm like, I've seen your dad shit. Like I've seen your dad take a humongous shit.
I've seen your dad shit his pants
Oh my god.
in that wonderful scene.
Is he
in
the
Jackass one?
Is he the one in 2 or 3 where they pay him like $500 to eat like horse shit, or is that
I know
Do
the
it the
stunt, but
Mohawk.
I don't know if that's in 2 or 3. I just know
It's
of the
in
stunt.
2.
There's-
Dave England does
Okay.
it.
knew
Chris
it? He
Pontius
does
is the
it.
one that drinks horse semen.
Oh. Is that the one with the revolver? They do roulette with the horse semen.
No, I don't think they'd ever do that.
But that's in a movie. That's in The Naked Mile. American Pie: The Naked Mile. Very dumb movie. I like.
It inspired it.
Probably.
I mean, honestly, probably.
Good
I saw like an article somewhere talking about how like Knoxville was responding to some backlash of like his stunts being too tame or something.
Christ.
And yeah,
Poor
and
guy.
His response was like, "I'm too old for that shit."
Yeah, he's
No.
old and his penis already broke. What more do you want from this man?
But I don't know what happened in the new Jackass, which is why I bring it up because
He literally like gets destroyed. So-
He got brain damage from this movie.
from the newest one again.
From there's a bull stunt and he lands and he got brain damage. Like it's,
Fuck.
so these people saying that must have been like poor poor Johnny was been like, are you fucking kidding me? Like I'm trying so hard for you people.
Maybe it was in response to the movie, like oh, I'm done with that.
yeah, I don't know. I think Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O probably got hurt pretty early on into filming or something because they are like noticeably not doing quite as much as they usually do, but like Johnny Knoxville always gets destroyed by bulls in every movie, but this one is like this one is like the golf cart scene in 1 where like everybody's like scared that I think Dunn and or Johnny Knoxville are dead. Like that's what this bull thing
Which
is.
one's that one?
It's when they're just
in
like
one.
it's in 1. They're just driving around a golf course, fucking around in a golf cart, and they're like trying to drive over a plastic mascot or something, and the golf cart just like collapses onto the thing and like rolls over like twice or something like that.
Christ.
Rolling a golf cart is not the safest thing to roll. Be real.
It has a cage.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
it has a roof.
It has a frame. It technically has a frame.
Yeah, but like when Johnny Knoxville lands from the bowl, I want to say like there's also a scene somewhere else where this happens in Jackass, and everybody's like, "Oh shit!" But like he's just on the floor snoring. Like it's like, "Oh, that's not good."
My god!
Does he see
That's it.
C-3PO arms? Have you ever seen those? In like UFC, some people just get knocked out and their arms just kind of lock up, and that's when you know it's really bad. You're just like,
Well,
oh
no,
fuck.
It's a bull hit, so he just ragdolls. But
Oh.
But anytime you get the snoring or the death rattle sounds, it's like, oh no. Oh,
it's
buddy.
definitely how he landed. Like he lands
Okay.
pretty heavy on his back and neck. Like
That's fucked.
I need to go watch this movie. It's just so good.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
It's a terrible time for some
it's
people.
great. There's a lot of male nudity.
Woo!
Yummy.
What the hell?
It's not as good as the other ones, but it's still great. A bad
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fun.
It's not a bad movie, but like below level of the previous one, Jackass movies is still arguably better than a lot of other movies.
I haven't seen any of the like Bad Grandpa movies either. There were like two, right?
I haven't seen those. Feel
I've
too
seen one.
Too scripted.
too muted.
I mean, like the thing that like initially popped my interest to them again is because I saw Eric Andre's movie that was like fairly scripted, but like the stunts were great, like the pranks were great. So
That
I
one
was like, oh, maybe I should go check out Bad Trip. Yeah, I was like, maybe I should check out Bad Grandpa and stuff.
If you liked that movie, Bad Grandpa's pretty similar.
It's like a step between. To me, it seems like a step between like a Jackass movie being above that and like an episode of Jackass being below that sort of deal. Where it's like a little bit of a mixture between like having stunts and being a production.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you remember the one where they get hit with the claymore with the safety claymore?
Yeah, that one's great.
That shit gets me. That one shit gets me every time.
Oh no!
I think about that a lot.
Yeah, and how like
After
they wear the safety glasses, and then Giant Apple just puts his hand like over his mouth.
He puts his hand over
like,
his face and his nuts, like.
Yeah, he just like gets all his protection.
And Bam and Dunn are just like full paintball helmeted out. Like,
do you remember the interview where it's Bam's chair is just slowly breaking for like no reason?
Yeah, it's in 3.5.
Have you seen the interview, Manny?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow,
Funny.
it's just
It's just
them
throughout
talking
the
in the middle of it.
movie. You know how the 0.5 movies are formatted, where it's just like clip and then it cuts to them. Like throughout 3.5, it's just Bam and Dunn sitting there, and then you start noticing that Bam's chair is falling apart, and then at one point it just like full on falls apart, and then he just like has to stand there. It's really funny.
It's so funny. Oh, man,
Rest in peace, Dunn.
rest in peace.
Damn.
Godspeed to Bam and whatever he's going through.
Yeah. Bam, I think, is in one clip of the new movie, and it's very not noticeable if you're not paying attention. And I swear he's in a clip in the credits because they're showing like old deleted scenes from the Big Brother office or whatever, and I swear they like blur him out.
Poor guy.
That's rough.
Yeah, the studio Manny basically was like, he needs help, and like we don't want him to be a problem on set. Like, and
Yeah,
so,
I
he
didn't.
couldn't handle it.
Well, what about it? Like, but association though. That's like removing association.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
if
I
you're
get what the
blurring him
studio was
out.
doing, and I think at the time maybe Bam couldn't. I mean, I don't know. I'm just speculating, but that's why I want him we just wish him a speedy recovery to whatever he's going through. Poor guy.
Yeah.
April Fools, everybody.
Oh shit! I realized how dated this is gonna be. not that our opening banter is ever like current. But...
Yeah.
What's the weather tomorrow for our local area?
Well,
the weather tomorrow.
well, this
April
episode is
2nd
gonna come
is-
out before our last 2 recorded episodes, I think. So
Yeah.
Let's just
it'll
make
be more
references to
current
those
than
episodes the
those.
entire time. Oh man.
Yeah. We rough around the edges for sure.
Hit us with that,
Yeah.
Andres. Hit us with it.
That's
So
what the good boy.
are you two done? So
Yes.
we have a bonus episode for you guys. Or I guess this would be a special episode.
Because we all here.
Yeah.
That's true.
We decided to do the opposite of what we normally do and recommend stuff we don't like to each other for April Fools.
That's so funny.
But I don't know what this is going to look like when I post it, because I'm going to figure that out as I go along.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too a little bit. I was like, wow, we're gonna like post. We're gonna have to do a lot of research to make some posts about these.
Well, listen, man. Sometimes it's okay to not post. Like, wait,
I'm
we
just
do.
talking about like the photo or whatever. Like,
Oh, we gotta include the things we're gonna talk about.
We can
today.
We can have the guy holding all 3 things, but instead of passing it to someone, it's going to the trash can.
that's actually pretty funny.
That's what I do.
We should do that.
But
Oh my gosh. In the spirit of this, we also Andres, did you listen to the Nickelback album?
yes.
God damn it. I was gonna be like, in the spirit of this, none of us listened or watched the other person's stuff.
Let's
Yeah.
announce what we recommended to each other.
For my anti-recommendation, I did Love Live, the School Idol movie.
Love Live.
Love.
Are you guys gonna say yours or?
I'm
Yeah,
pulling mine up so I
sorry.
can get. I wanted to get the director.
Okay, I can chat. So, I ended up recommending Nickelback's debut full-length album, Curb, from 1999.
I've unsussed Dune Part 1, 2021, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Sorry, I really was trying to just learn how to say that name and I couldn't figure it out. So Denis V.
Yo, Denny V.
Denny V,
Denny V.
Your movie.
who's directed a bunch of good movies.
Yeah, well, you can talk about it later, but
Listen,
Yeah.
dude. Cancel the podcast. We're talking about Denny V today. Denny V has been known for Blade Runner 2049, Andres.
oh,
That movie probably suffers from some of the opinions I have on Dune.
Ooh.
Oh, he made Sicario? Cool.
For reference, basically the main requirement was that we each paid attention to our own thing so we could share with pieces of what we don't exactly like or think are stupid. I don't want to say stupid, but
Yo, this shit's stupid.
a lot of what I was watching for mine specifically was just ridiculous, kind of. I have a lot of opinions on Love Live, and I think maybe not Love Live in particular, but the movie. And by by proxy, the second season, I think, are very, very over the top at a lot of things.
Yeah,
Could
definitely see that.
But I listened to the Nickelback album this morning, so I listened to it once, and I got 37 minutes into Dune before we started recording, so I probably could have finished, but just in general, I have a hard time watching long movies. I legit watched my movie, which is an hour 30, more or less.
That's long for Love Live.
it is long, but I watched it in 4 different sittings. Like I just did not have the time to watch movies this week, so
yeah, I took a very similar approach. I mean, the reason I sort of recommended Nickelback, which I'll get into more, should be obvious to everyone. Nickelback is like a band that finds itself at this like on the cutting block for a bunch of different reasons all the time. From like really sort of like superficial, silly reasons, like they're like gimmicky or something.
They're like a meme.
Or yeah, it's basically a memed band. And then on the other side, there are like much deeper problematic things about certain members of the group, etc. So that's why I wanted to recommend Nickelback. And we always talk about Nickelback in the context of like Photograph or the newer songs. And I was like,
that song.
Me too.
I like that meme from that song. Look at this graph. And it just holds on his face for a few seconds. It's so good every time.
It's really good. But to dig deeper, I wanted to recommend the very first thing they put out. So, and it digs a little deep. It's a little odd, to say the least. But yeah, I'm familiar with the Love Live movie, and I've seen a little bit of it. And I have not seen any of Dune, but I'm familiar with the story, so I'm very curious to see where that goes.
Where I come from Dune as like a thesis statement is that I believe the movie focuses a lot on the greater part of the story, that it doesn't give a shit about its characters. Is the easiest way I can say it. And
I was definitely picking up on that. But
when I've said this opinion to a lot of people, and it's another one of the things where I really I don't like people who can't take the criticism like that. Like I've had some people just I'll go into a little bit deeper, but just kind of be like, well, all this other stuff is good, so that's fine. And it's like, okay, so we're just not talking about the problems. I just don't like that. I don't like that, and I really don't like how nose up in the air this movie feels like. And again, our friend Brian is a better Timothée Chalamet than Timothée Chalamet is.
Damn. We are an anti-Timothée Chalamet podcast.
I'm sure he's a cool guy, but I feel like he'd be really mean to me. I feel like me and him wouldn't get along. Does that make sense?
Damn, that's funny. I can see what you mean.
Oh my god.
All right. So who wants to set this off?
I'll go.
Yeah. Hit us with
the movie is 2.5 hours. It's a long movie. The book is very long, and I've been absorbing other Dune media. I have tried reading the book. I don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. I listened to the last podcast on the left's deep dive into Dune. I've tried to read like comics about Dune. It's interesting. Again, the world is so cool. In the same way that Blade Runner exists, like you want to learn and deep into this world and like deep dive into this world, because I feel like they don't give you enough at times. Have I seen the David Lynch film? No, because people say it's you either love or you hate it, and it's very weird. But Dune as a film has a fantastic cast of characters, of really talented actors, and no one really gets any time to be more than a one-dimensional like plot piece, in my opinion. Like no, you Timothy Chalamet's father is played by Oscar Isaac, a phenomenal actor, and he gets like maybe 10 lines. He gets to be kind of cool at some points, and then he's gone. It's not phenomenal. Timothy Chalamet is playing Paul Atreides, who's supposed to be this like really deep and introspective character, and it just doesn't come across, in my opinion. Like, there's moments of like really interesting vulnerableness that happens between him and his mother, and then there's moments between him and Jason Momoa characters, Duncan Idaho, where they just don't even have a conversation. Like, they're supposed to be really good friends is what they kind of infer on you, and then immediately they just jump into the plot. Like, you know, like it'd be for another reference, it'd be like if they took away all of the conversations of like a Marvel movie or something, and they just made it just about the plot. And some people might have liked that. Some people think maybe it's too much. And I think there's a point where like you don't need to have jokes. You don't need to be like constantly just like making snide remarks about all this stuff. But I think you should make these characters seem more than just actors in a movie. You should make them seem like this world. If this world is so deep, the people must be deep as well. And I guess that's alluded to that, but it never feels that way. And that's just my biggest gripe about this movie. No one feels like a person. It's just blah, 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 blah. That's my first point.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk to you about that. I like characters more than I care for. Yeah, I want a character. Yeah,
likewise. Yeah.
I don't know what other story does like hollow characters just for plot device that's considered good. You know, like.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like even children's media does characters really well, but sometimes they like can fall to. I don't know. For some reason, I thought of Winnie the Pooh when you were talking.
Okay,
I don't know why.
Go on.
But
go on. Hold on, audience. We're lost as you are. Keep going, Manny.
So for example, in a franchise like Winnie the Pooh, one of the things that helps children learn is like archetypal characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Pooh is a honey muncher. That's all he does is munch that honey, and Piglet is afraid, right? And Roo, like, et cetera, et cetera. But then even children's media has development. Even Piglet's forced to overcome his fears in the movies.
They definitely have these like moments of development and like growth and like forced growth and stuff, but it definitely
it feels forced.
It just kind of happens. It just happens and it happens and it happens. Like it never feels like, I don't know. It doesn't feel earned. None of it feels earned, in my opinion. And that's kind of the concept of the whole book, as I've been listening to about it, is that like main character Paul Atreides is supposed to be like this god, like who can do everything and like learn and blah 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 blah. But like it never feels like he learns any of that.
In the small part that I watched, they're full on Neoing it and call him the One. So
I don't know if that's like a canon thing or not, actually.
It probably is, but
it probably is. I'm trying to remember. I read like a majority of Dune a very long time ago. So,
in the book, Manny, from what you remember, do you remember them being a lot of scenes of like I heard someone discuss the thing called like the dinner scene, and the dinner scene is Paul Atreides, his mother Jessica, Duke Leto, and then Dr. Yu. They're like the core of the family, and they have a dinner scene, and they kind of just like show you like what the stand like it establishes character in the book.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Well, I remember that vaguely. I think the thing but
the concept is there.
Yeah.
That scene does not exist in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was going to bring up about this point is that it's sort of ironic that in like it's like 2.5 hours, right?
It's 2.5 hours. Part 1
in 2.5
of Dune.
Yeah, part 1 of Dune, right? In what's supposed to be a grand telling of an epic narrative that has 2.5 hours to tell its first part. You would think that would be enough time to have the like pacing necessary to develop characters, but I think it's sounding like the way that this movie was put together is they just didn't lean into the time that it takes for you to become acclimated to a character's entire being, and so it like one dimensionalizes them, which is really unfortunate because the reason. So the book of Dune. So Dune, as far as like the narrative goes,
It
it
has
is
3 books within the book.
yeah, and it's really
Yeah.
about the world. Like it, like if
100% is about this
Yeah.
entire, and again, that's the goal of this movie.
yeah, exactly
World
exactly,
building
which is,
for this.
Yeah,
But to me, I want to talk about just this movie. I want to
Yeah,
say,
of course.
is this movie good on its own?
yeah, that's a really hard sell.
And
I
I
think.
get it. I get it. It's maybe, like it's not for me and blah 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 blah. But I think the criticism I have of it being like having these hollow characters is pretty fair because it doesn't feel like they really matter. Do I want to learn more about what the spice does and the trading guild or whatever it's called, spacing guild? Do I want to see more of Stellan Skarsgård's Baron? Yeah, there's so much I want to see, and then some of it's just kind of like just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But then I had this conversation with some super fans, like I mentioned earlier, and I got hit with yeah, but did you see it in IMAX? And I was like, does that change anything? And they're like, well, the sound design is amazing, and I was like,
Really?
okay, like that's it, like that's what we're talking. Like, what about this criticism? And they're just like, oh, it's still fine. It's still just so good. And I'm like, I get what you're saying. But
that sounds
I
like some
don't-
coping. That sounds like some coping. Honestly.
I that's kind of, I was just like, this doesn't feel like
This
Andres, what do you want to say? Because I have other points to make.
this sounds like my interaction with the movie Your Name. I legit have very big issues with the narrative, and then anytime I try to bring that up, people usually deflect it with, oh, but it looks beautiful, or the soundtrack is amazing. And yes, that's true. It's also
But what
pretty
about
true for
this?
Dune. Like the 40 minutes I saw were pretty beautiful. Like it's shot great.
It's so cool. People were like, oh, but did you see the sandworms? I'm like, we didn't see enough of the sandworms. And then they kind of look at me and they're like, but they were there. And it's like, okay, but like, I guess I don't understand what this loyalty to this movie is.
that's a really big topic.
And
We could
yeah, I have that's where I get a lot of. I mean, I just finished Halo Infinite campaign yesterday, and it's not great, but like, I'm a fan of it because it never was great. Like, it's fine, it's fun, and it has good moments. But if you tell me like, is it a good story? I'm like, yeah, are you fucking kidding me? It's Halo. It's meant to be. There's tons of shitty parts about it, but I'm aware and I'm okay with saying this.
I think Dune suffers from what a lot of long-standing franchises suffer from, especially when they're adapted into film, into cinema, which is like adaptations. When you do one or two and they fail and you redo them, there's always this feeling of like dissatisfaction and tension and maybe expectation that is really hard to meet, and there's like a lot of pressure. And so both on the fan side and the production side. So you can think about like the countless Spider-Man remakes, right? Like how like every time a new Spider-Man remake trilogy comes out, it's like, oh shit, like we're gonna try to do it differently and do it better and blah blah blah. With Dune has had a really terrible time with like cinema adaptations. The David Lynch one is extremely divisive and considered by like fans of the franchise, like of the novel series, right, to not be very good.
I think even David Lynch says he's like, I never, the studio interrupted so much, he's not even proud of that film.
Yeah.
And that's so terribly
that's sad.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really sad. But I think what's happening here is like the some of what you're getting from the audience or from the fans is part of that tension manifested, where it's like, oh, like, yeah, the movie wasn't great, but like this is what we have now. So like we have
I've definitely heard that with a lot of other things of like, I think when Sword and Shield came out for Pokemon,
oh
I've said
my
this before,
god,
people were like, I knew someone that said, I'm not happy with all the decisions they made, but I'm just starved for content, so I bought both. And it's just like, great, like cool. Like I don't get that mentality. And it again, besides that, this movie's gonna be really cool. I heard some like diehard fans say like, I don't even want to review this movie until I see the whole thing, part 1 and 2. And it's like, okay, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say, but I just don't get that part. Like, am I gonna go see Dune 2? If someone invites me to go see it, or like or if I have time on HBO, like that's it. I don't.
Yeah.
Did this hook me into the Dune world? Kind of, yeah, it kind of did. But the movie itself, I think, if it was just this movie, if this just came out and people were like, the Frank Herbert never wrote the book or anything, I don't think people would give a shit about this.
no,
I don't think it would work.
I agree.
It only works as a basis for something much greater than it is.
You know, I think the audience most readily identifiable with this type of movie construction is probably those who like Henry VIII or like political drama oriented films. Even though it's genre differently, Dune is a very political story.
Dune is all about the
like,
politics. And I get it.
So,
and
yeah.
that's not what I like in a film. I want to talk about characters and stuff.
Exactly.
You know? But dude, am I gonna watch My Cousin Vinny, one of the greatest courtroom dramas of all time? Yes, so fucking good. Am I gonna watch this movie again? I don't. I might go on YouTube and watch the cool clips that happen. I can't even think of any parts that are that exciting, except for maybe there's a big like fight scene that happens that's really cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah. Andres, you saw the movie, or you saw like way more than I did, which I saw 0 of it. So what did you like think about it, given everything we're talking about?
I can see just from the small bits where I saw, I can see what Alexi means for sure. Based on what I saw, it really reminded me of the pre-Justice League DC Universe movies.
Ooh.
It felt like it took itself really seriously, which is fine, but it also just felt like I needed to be interested in this to actually get anything out of it. Like, all the characters really seemed to be just trying to drive along the plot.
Yes.
There wasn't really anything. I don't know. It just, everything felt archetypal, and everything really, it felt like a backdrop to something bigger. I don't know really how to explain it.
People have even said that about Dune the novel. That Dune the novel is just set up that way. Dune, Messiah, I think is number 2, is a better book because of it. And it's like, okay, like again, that's all of this is fine. I just wanted to say that I don't think this film is that great on its own. On its own, it's not. You know?
Yeah. For some more context on that, what you said about the book series, I mean, the thing that Dune is actually referenced a lot in terms of like craft and whatnot is its world building, like at the core of it. So like, I think that that's an unfortunate side effect that leaked into the cinema production. It's like, this world is the important part, and therefore the politics of the world are part of the driving force behind that. But then, like, it just leads to, like, okay, all of these characters literally have to use all of their screen time to achieve the end goals of the plot. That suddenly we can't. Yeah.
It's a lot of just narrative speak. I'm blanking on the actual...
Exposition drops.
Yeah, it's just a lot of exposition coming from the characters, and it often comes off as them not being human because of that.
Did you get to the part where Timothée Chalamet meets Jason Momoa, like on
yeah.
the planet Dune? That to me
No,
is the
not
greatest
on the
example
Dune.
of. Okay, when it comes up, it's the greatest example of it. I already mentioned it, but like it really is like they're like Duncan, he's like Paul, and then like they meet up. They don't even like really hug or like high five or anything, and then Paul like gives a look, and Duncan's like, "No, you can't come with me, please, Paul." Like there's just like no nuance. There's no like, "Hey, like how was? Tell me about it." Blah 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 blah. Like give me details of this world and make it feel organic rather than words. Word like it just doesn't work.
I have a lot of counter examples, just like for things that have like a pretty big world, but still just focus on the characters and then build the world around it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I legit don't understand the appeal of Dune, if I'm being honest. So I don't know if
Yeah,
that's what
fair.
people want. Like, do people want just like to see the cool space worlds, or
I think Manny hit it on the head. It is an amazingly written giant game of politics, but in the book you get to view it through the lens of these people for a while and like understand and grow from there. And I mean, Frank Herbert and this film does the thing of like, we are the Bene Gesserit, and you're like, what the fuck is a Bene Gesserit? And you're just like, oh, we'll find out as we go along. And it's like, I have no complaints about that.
Yeah.
But like in the books, they go and they're like, you'll see the Bene Gesserits and all of its importance as it goes on. And I think like it even has like a glossary, so you can go back and like read in the index like what it means, and it doesn't have this. I don't know. Like I think Andres is a good point though. There's other things with like these really deep and rich worlds that have cool characters that make you want to keep coming to the world and see what their adventures are going to be, rather than just, oh cool, this setting's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something out there that I just have no knowledge of, but isn't this basically why people like Game of Thrones? Like, didn't they do the opposite, where people really care about the characters and it is a whole thing about politics? But it isn't that why people like Game of Thrones? It's just kind of the opposite of Dune.
I'm not a good standpoint for it, but like, I don't know, man. Have you seen it? I've seen some as well. But it's, I think Andres makes a good point. It is a lot about the characters. You care more about them and what they're doing and how their interactions come across. And one day, Paul and Stilgar are gonna have a conversation, and I'm not gonna give a shit. You know?
Yeah, that's like the thing about Game of Thrones that I think that's exactly right.
Game
like
of Thrones.
the with Game of Thrones and shows like that, especially where there's like conflict, right? And if it's political conflict, it's even more deadly, but you have to be given a reason to care about the conflict. And characters are almost always the way into those things. So if you're like not finding a way to develop or ground characters or make you care about them, it's like, oh, well, why should I care about these like 4 different alien races or 2 different like races at war with each other, right? And like doing their particular thing.
Though I listening to last podcast on left talk about what Dune is made it sound so fucking cool.
It's cool.
And it doesn't. I don't know if I'm just saying like, am I a person that needs to be spoon fed information? I don't know. Maybe I am, but like, there's a part where like they kind of just don't say enough, and to me, there's the House Atreides is now taking over the planet from House Harkonnen, and they are part of a secret plot in House Harkonnen with the Emperor to destroy Duke Atreides because he's too powerful. And you're like, oh, all of this sounds awesome. To me, it didn't come across.
Yeah.
It just didn't. And I don't know. Maybe, again, if I'm a person who needs to be spoon-fed a story, I apologize, everyone. I'm sorry I'm this stupid. But, like, I don't think I am. I think it just had so much. I had a it had a lot to say and only few words were spoken. And it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way when it comes to telling me what the exposition wasn't even enough for what it was, and that's all the fucking movie was. I feel like
That's fair. I think from an outside perspective, since I know very little about this movie, it comes across like it's really a movie for the fans of the novel, or the fans of the entire plot and world already, because it's like exactly the interaction between the lead character and between Timothy Chalamet and the best friend. It's like you can like pick that up in the movie, it sounds like, but um the movie is probably already making presumptions that the audience knows who this is. And I think that that's maybe where some of the character development is being dropped off. It's like, well,
yes,
this is about the plot, this is about the world, and this is for our fans of Dune primarily, because God knows we haven't had a good movie
which
adaptation.
is why I don't know where the new people are coming in. Like,
Mm.
is this knowing that there's going to be people like me who just go on YouTube and watch a video essay about it, and then they get excited?
No, I think
That's the hard part.
I think they just made it pretty so people would say like, "Hey, this looks cool. I'm gonna keep watching because I want to see more cool graphics."
That makes a lot of sense. Every like advertisement I saw for this film was screaming, "Look at me, I'm epic,"
And
in a
there's
variety of ways.
and they have the celebrity cast to back it up. Like, there's so many
big money
people that
there.
are probably seeing it to just be like, "Oh, I love Timothy Chalamet," or "Oh, I love Zendaya." Like,
Yeah.
I love Oscar Isaac. That's why I saw it. He's so good.
Exactly.
Again, and everyone does so good. David Dastmalchian, he's in a lot of movies we've seen. He's the Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad. He's phenomenal. I love that guy. Tons of people you see, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a good fucking movie. You know, Javier Bardem, phenomenal. Like, just I wanted them to act. But that,
it's probably the script writing, you know. It's probably the script writing.
You were given one of the most dense pieces of literature that people respect and adore, and is considered like a big part for science fiction for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get everything right, and that's fine. Like, again, I don't think this movie's bad. I don't think it's for me though. That's my criticism.
I almost want to bring up Lord of the Rings as like a counterexample, because like that has like a similar weight and a similar media structure, where it's coming from novels going into, you know, movie adaptations. It's an epic, but it's rooted in fantasy instead of sci-fi.
It has the advantage of being lighthearted though.
That's
and
right,
it is, instead of it being the journey of Paul to become the God King, it's the journey of Frodo and his friends solving all these problems to destroy the One Ring.
Yeah, I mean, it's an adventure, whereas
Yeah.
Dune is so deeply political. Like,
do the difference between those genres naturally lead to a more a better opportunity for like character development and character
I would say
telling?
so.
I don't know about that necessarily. I think it's just infinitely more accessible if it's like an adventure.
It's easier to relate to a person going through a journey and like overcoming things and like growing than it is to relate to the two houses and all the rules we don't know about this and the other, etc. And then Paul Atreides being a superhero, being like a super fucking hero.
Yeah, that's the issue.
To a point where like, and I spoiler, I'm trying to figure out how I'm doing a Spider-Man episode and talk about his journey to a superhero and how drastically different it is, and how, in my opinion, almost perfect it is compared to Paul's, and how they don't really care at all about Paul.
Because it is possible to do like political drama and make it relatable.
That's true.
You
very true. Yeah.
But you absolutely have to just have a human and super relatable cast of characters, or else it's just like it's hard to get people to care about real life politics. Why would they care about why would they care about fake politics if there's nobody they can connect to?
People who like Dune did not vote. It makes perfect sense.
Damn. We are a voting positive podcast.
Hard stance on that one. I think I've said all I've had to say about it. Again, like, but what I will say about all this stuff: go watch the movie and form your own opinion, and then tweet at me why I'm stupid. I don't go on Twitter.
That's a good idea. Maybe I will go watch this movie. Maybe
it's on HBO Max.
I had no idea.
If you have HBO, it might have come off actually. Now
I think they took it off.
It's gonna come back to HBO Max. If you have
the
time
sure
in HBO Max, you can do a preview for another episode we're doing about the Suicide Squad film, and you could just watch that because it's so fucking good. Anyway, go ahead.
Who wants to go next?
How you feeling, Durs? Do you want to go?
Do you want to hit us with
Love Live?
Do you want to do 2 movies, or do you want to?
Oh, okay. Let's break it up with some music. I think that's probably.
I think it works too that we went Andres, Manny, Alexi, and then we went Alexi, Manny, Andres. My brain likes that pattern.
Oh yeah, we all about the patterns. Okay.
Remind me of who I really am, Manny.
This is how I'll remind you. So we are talking about Nickelback. This is a band. I'll say the same thing I said for another episode that I'm currently editing. This is a band that needs no introduction.
Fallout Boy.
The Nickelback is pretty widely known. They're a Canadian group, etc., etc.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
it really doesn't show in the music, but we can get to
not
that.
at all. Yeah, which is really funny. So Nickelback's Curb is what we'll be talking about today. It's the debut album of Nickelback. Came out in 1990. Let me fact check myself. I'm pretty sure 1996. Yes. It came out in 1996, and then there was like a re-release issue, I think. I believe, maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, no, there was a reissue in 2002 by Roadrunner Records, which is maybe it's a little bit of a stain on Roadrunner. They haven't had like the best track record, but like that was a little weird for me to find out. Either way, so 1996 and then 2002. The reason I recommended this album, which I sort of already hinted at, was okay, so I'll preface with, I'm into some weird music. I love music. I think all art is interesting and valuable. The thing about this album is I think it exemplifies a lot of the problems with Nickelback as artists and also a little bit as people. In a very like weird way. All of the music was written by Chad Kroeger. Except where there is some
such a perfect name for the for a person in Nickelback.
Yeah, I know. Chad Kroeger's the lead vocalist, by the way. So all of the music was written by Chad Kroeger, or most of the music, I should say. All of the lyrics were by Chad. And there were a couple of songs, some of the more quote unquote successful songs off the album were written by Jeff Boyd. I don't remember exactly who Jeff Boyd is, but I'm assuming some producer type. So there are a lot of different places we could start this conversation. But I'm wondering initial reactions for those who listen to some of the music.
I listened to a little bit. It's kind of what I expected from a 96 album, like of this time and what the world was like at that time, like musically. I wasn't like blown away. But
Do you remember what songs you listened to, by the way?
The first two, I can't even remember what they're called because, again, like,
yeah.
But it felt like it didn't have that pop feel that the albums you hear on the radio have, and like almost playing it safe vibe. Like this kind of did feel like, oh, these are new people writing music, and this is what they have to say. It's not like super crazy deep, but it's not like super bland either, I guess.
Yeah. There are very you picked up on some stuff. It's not very poppy. It actually has like very specific genre tinges of like southern grunge and some other things. But yeah, so you listen for the audience. The first two songs are "Little Friend" and "Pusher." Both very interesting song titles.
Pusher. He says "Pusher" in the song, and I was like, "What a weird like word! Like what a bizarre word to say and sing."
Yeah.
That's as far as I got though. What about you, Andres?
Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing kind of in the background. So I got absolutely zero from the lyrics, if I'm being honest.
That's totally fair.
For context, I do like 90s grunge, and know a little bit about it, probably more than just your average person that doesn't give a shit about music. I am also a pretty decently big fan of the Pearl Jam album 10. And this album felt like somebody heard that album and tried their best. That meme, "Let me see your homework," just copy it so the teacher doesn't know. It's literally that with like Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't really what I was expecting. Like, there's some pretty cool guitar tone on it that I liked, but there's some really disgusting drum tone on it. I don't
That is on the list of things to talk about, actually.
There's one song towards the end where it's like, oh my god, what is this? And there are a couple songs that straight up rip off a couple Pearl Jam melodies.
Do you know what other album came out in 1996 that I listened to? I've been listening to recently. Weezer's Pinkerton came out in 1996. I don't know why that blows me away. I've been on a big Weezer kick recently. Spoilers for yet another recommendation I'll probably be doing. But like
doing a Weezer episode.
We are for sure doing the Blue Album. There's like no way I'm not doing it.
That's fine.
Sorry for this tangent, audience. Go listen to Bill Budd's Weeztober. You will learn a lot about how shitty Rivers Cumbro is. He's pretty terrible as a person, and you feel real bad for him. But speaking of terrible people, tell me more about Chad Kroeger.
So Chad has had some problems. Chad
I'm interested to hear about this.
So Chad Kroeger has a very bad problem of being terrible to any music professionals who are like assisting with tours for the band. He's also very much a bro, in like the most characteristic sense of the word.
Really?
Which I mean, like, that's intimately tied with all of their music, but
and
in particular,
their audience.
like, yeah, which I think is such a strange thing for like a Canadian band to be taking. Not that I'm a huge nationalist type of person, but like Canadian band taking from like grunge and like southern rock, into that space. It's so strange.
There's weird tinges of like southern rock and country in this, as
Yes.
that I completely forgot they're Canadian. It's really bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, Chet Kroeger has just had like he's noted in the musical professional world as being like notoriously difficult to work with. And I mean it's not like he's done blackface or anything. So like nothing that like immediately cancels, but
He's just not that good of a person.
Yeah,
or he's just difficult. And that's kind of okay, like
it's hard. I mean, it's like it brings up the question of like where does the line between the people and the art that the people make get drawn? It would be much worse if Chad had like gone and shot a family or something, but that is not this
Manny.
conversation.
What is
so
the spectrum of
it's a spectrum, right? That's pretty bad, right? That's pretty bad.
familial murder, blackface, kind of an ass. Familial murder, blackface, chews with his mouth open. Like that's the spectrum we have.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, so the music itself is, like Andres was pointing out, is super influenced by like grunge and tinges of southern rock. And perhaps my biggest problem with this album is not the fact that it feels like it's being written by folks who are just like new to writing music within a certain genre, but that it comes off as very ingenuine in doing that. Mostly because of its maybe the best way to do this would be to play a little bit of the first song on the album.
There's not even a curb on this album art.
It's true.
So let's listen to the first track off of Nickelback's album. And I would love to while we're listening, try to pull as much as you can from it, and then we'll talk about it.
Eyes closed, ears are open. I am a preschool teacher demanding attention from my students.
All right. Okay, here we go.
So this song's about a murderer.
Let's talk about that.
This song, the lyrics indicate this man has a imaginary friend in his noggin that he is using and consulting with to steal people, children, and murder them.
What makes you say children?
He literally says, manhunt to find your daughter. And then
I've got a little friend.
The little friend can either be the friend, like her, or like in his head, his little friend. I just assume it's always terrible. Oh, she won't get much older. A thing you could also say to a person, but usually you don't say that. It's usually to a child you say stuff about their age.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's a very weird thing to pick for your opening song into your first album. Like, and that isn't like death metal, like songs that typically have this kind of connotation of like we're cannibals and this is our song. Like, First of all, write that down, man. You should write that song. Second of all,
there are bands that have written it.
damn it. And second of all, like, I don't know, like I haven't.
Yeah. Just like without even talking about other genres, other artists, right? As a song itself, it comes off lyrically, it comes off not so great. It's like a little, like, even with the grunge tinge to it, it's like, okay, it sits in this weird place between like extremely edgy and a little too vague. That feels a little like, while I can appreciate the artsiness of that, it's like not that great to me. And I know Andres probably has more to say about where the lyrical inspiration comes from here.
Andres,
but-
as a murderer yourself, how do you?
That's not what I meant.
It's very grunge canon to talk about things like that, like murder. The Nirvana song Polly is about a very similar thing of basically just it's based off an article of somebody who kidnapped a girl and just basically tortured her to death, I think.
Aw.
And that's pretty standard grunge lyricism. There's usually a little more to say, though. I don't know. This feels edgy. Like,
Yeah.
This feels like it's
feels like
just trying shock value, but not even
like all you got from it was enjoyment of the process. It's not like making a critique of anything. It feels like it's mostly like, look at this situation.
How do I scare people into thinking that we're cool?
yeah, I think it's the small tinge of southern rock that I think gives it that vibe of, like, when you first hear that opening riff, you are kind of wondering, are they going to talk about sleeping in mud, or are they going to talk about their truck? Like,
and one of the things about so riff wise, everything, I don't know, the entirety of this album screams like southern and or grunge, and the guitar work on the album is almost like someone who's like learning specific Pantera riffs, but is just adapting the chords from them. Like, they're just like, oh, I know this chord, I'm gonna play it like this, and I know this chord, I'm gonna play it like this. I know the tone, and I'm gonna use that. But it feels like someone was like, I want to be Dimebag, and then like, that's it.
maybe maybe that's the issue with Nickelback, is that it sounds like you're friend of a friend's band that just somehow made it big, and they shouldn't have. Like, they sound like they should be playing bars to people who just want to request country songs on the inside.
Yeah, it feels like a cover. Really, this album feels like a cover band album, without any of the like awesome music that cover bands would cover. Specifically like a southern, like, I don't know. There's like elements of grunge. You get like a little bit of like the Stone Temple Pilots thing sometimes, especially in the vocal lines. It's like,
I think Stone Temple Pilots brings up a pretty, because they're kind of a bit of contention. A lot of people say early grunge is typically where the good stuff is, and that after Nirvana really broke big, everything went down the toilet. Stone Temple Pilots kind of rides that line. I know, like, music critics still like them, but they also are just kind of like, some of these songs. But the album, or the bands that usually get pushed onto are like Bush. They're usually the main dudes.
Yeah. And another thing about just what we listen to right now, just so we can like dissect a little, is the vocal line. Every time I hear it, I think of the War Pigs melody.
Yeah.
Every time.
I didn't want to bring that up specifically because I tend to make weird connections, but
it was like so. And that's when I first heard that, I was like, oh, okay, like a middling guitar-y album, a middling grunge album from Nickelback, which is already sort of weird, then is straight up adapting a melody, like just basic, like the cadences are the same, but the notes in the particular places are a little different. And I'm like, oh, maybe this album, like I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it more of a listen. And Chad Kroeger, bless his heart, some of the vocals are just a little like, I don't know, it almost comes off as imitation, like just like an unflattering imitation of like the grunge vocal aesthetic. And that's one of my biggest gripes of the album is it feels like it's trying, but then it falls flat like on every aspect of the music. Except maybe like some of the lyrics. I don't know.
Are we? I don't think we're even saying it as in like these guys are not good and thanks for trying. It's more like these guys didn't put the heart into it. Is that what you're trying to come across as saying? It's
a little bit of both.
Yeah, because it definitely feels like, was this kind of like, oh, we made a band on a dare and we made some money and it kind of just kept going? Like,
that's a little bit at what I'm getting at. Musically, okay. So knowing what I know about Nickelback now, how the music is written, the production value behind their biggest hits, etc. I'm like, okay, like let's pick that. Take that into perspective back to their early stuff. And it sort of just paints a picture of like genre adaptation for profit. I don't know. To me, that's what it feels like. But a lot of the songs off this album have problems like this where it's like it's really messy in a variety of ways. And talking about the drums in particular, I heard like one snare tone in a song that sounded like it was supposed to be in a hardcore group. It was so high pitched.
Yeah,
I was like, what is this?
It was bizarre. I'm gonna try to find what song it is real quick, but
yeah, please do. I think it's like
it's towards the end. I know. Sure.
It's like I think it's Window Shopper.
Baby,
but
window shopper.
The Alexi, I posted the lyrics for.
I was reading along. Yeah.
I posted the lyrics for Pusher as well, which is also what you listen to.
Pusher.
And I'm wondering, like, what do you get out of Pusher, having perused the lyrics a little bit?
And some say, why you follow with something so long? I don't know, man. I feel like I sat in Dune and I feel like I had to finish it. I feel like he's talking to me directly about my experience with Dune.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's Windows Shopper.
Sweet.
These all just feel like generic ideas you see at the beginning of a poetry book, but the poem's never finished.
That's my biggest problem. I feel like with the lyrical content, it doesn't. I feel like a lot of the lyrical content doesn't really say anything in this album, or is trying to allude to things that are just like archetypes in grunge aesthetic.
I don't ask much anymore. Okay, that's something, right? That's like I have needs, but it's hard for me to open up. I found something. Yeah. End of chorus.
That's the chorus.
There's there's no more. There's no like. Within me. It's not even like an American like I'm the ideal man. Blah 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 blah. Or it's not even like I found this girl and she did it. Or I found my new pickup truck and blah blah blah. I have a dog. Like there's no.
Yeah, it's middling to me again.
It's one of
like
those people who are annoying and ask a question, but they don't like. They're like, I'm not here to answer your question. I'm just here to watch you debate about it. And you're like, oh, fucking shit, dude. Like, why do we hang out with you, bro? Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, to follow the chorus going into the second verse, after I found something, yeah, it's, and why do you see me in this way? The way that I did. I gave him the means to the ends, yes, I did. I bothered not to believe in this way, the way that I did. I made him just to see in this way, the way that I did, yeah, yeah.
it's like,
It's just like I'm all for
I don't know
weird
what
poetry.
they're talking about. Yeah, like,
Yeah,
but
it doesn't communicate a lot.
it doesn't even create images in my mind.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, that's.
I gave him the means to the ends. Okay.
What do you
Next line?
What
Next
means,
line?
right? What
yes,
means?
I did. Like, you're just reaffirming that you did something, but we don't even know what the end, like, it means the end. Like, is this a lyric that God wrote, and he's saying he basically forced a guy to kill himself? Like, is that what this is? This is the only like crazy elaborate plot I can come up with. I don't know. I don't even know what to do with this with these lyrics.
Yeah.
It definitely brings up the later grunge, just kind of what the fuck was going on, because it's very obvious that people probably saw this happening, whether or not Nickelback started, because I mean they obviously are wearing their influences on their sleeves, whether or not they just started because, oh, we want to be cool rock stars or whatever.
He literally has a song called Rockstar.
Yeah, right.
That the lyric is, I want to be a rock star.
And there's also, I want a quesadilla in that song.
I was going to mention that line too. And I had no idea how to get to it. I'm so glad you did.
Like, I'm not sure what the whole meaning behind starting this band was, but it's definitely the reason why they're popular is because they were able to achieve that like accessible sound that's still heavy or whatever that grunge kind of promised. But what people overlook from the super highly regarded bands like Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Pearl Jam is that they all like actually really cared about their music. Like Eddie Vedder and Lane Staley have beautiful voices. Kurt Cobain, I mean, all of them really cared about their lyricism.
Deeply.
Maybe they weren't the best guitarists and only really take from a super punk aesthetic where it's just a bunch of chords, but they deeply cared about their music, and the fame just kind of was secondary. At least that's the romantic way of putting it. I've heard that like Kurt Cobain did put a lot of thought into his image and stuff like that, which is perfectly fine.
Which makes sense once you have an image to take care of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and that's why people think he's so fucking cool, is because he wanted to be so fucking cool.
It almost feels like the opposite. Maybe this is a bit overstepping with my two songs I've heard from Nickelback. Maybe these guys really just wanted to catch that cool fame. And
I have something on that train of thought. So a friend of mine,
Chad
from over here in Connecticut,
from here now, Hannah, Alberta, my friend Chad
was talking to me about Chad Kroeger and Nickelback, because they have this cool project where they take they're inspired by music that is controversial in some way, and like because of Nickelback's like hyper present country grunge pop aesthetic, which a lot of people come to hate on Nickelback for. They do some work with them with that type of aesthetic in their music. But the reason I brought them up is because they pointed this out to me. I'm gonna share my screen and I'm gonna show you. Gonna show you a side by side. Yeah, I'm gonna remind you. Okay, so this is Chad Kroeger in the early 2000s.
Enemy spotted.
This is Kurt Cobain.
Yes, Manny. All white people look the same. I don't know why you keep telling us this narrative and why you keep forcing us to.
That's not the point. my point is that like this look was a very important look in like their advertising of the band. Newer Chad Kroeger does not look like this. Newer Chad, like, oh yeah, we got like a new version of Chad Kroeger in the backyard. No, this is Chad Kroeger now.
I'm trying to find something about Nickelback's inspiration. You know, like, hey, like, I want Nickelback to talk about their like roots and stuff, because I mean, this could be a guy who like, hey, he looks exactly like Kurt Cobain because he was a huge fucking Kurt Cobain fan.
But that's the idea. That's part of the thing is like there's a huge influence. I think. And
it just doesn't. Just because you like something doesn't mean you have it. You know, like
I
love Ratatouille.
Yeah,
doesn't mean I know how to make Italian dishes.
That's what Andres was saying about the motivation. Like when you go as far to like make sure you look like one of the icons, one of the newer icons of a particular genre space, that like defined the genre, was sort of like a superstar of the genre. It can come off disingenuous when like I don't know. It's just like something about the album doesn't like reach it, and I'm wondering what the motivation is there too. You know, it feels strange.
It seems like it was very. I mean, their influences are pretty on their sleeve. Like you can pick out so many things that they're just pulling from, which is fine. Like I like music like that, honestly, but it's just missing something. Like it's missing any sort of new input.
Yeah. And I mean the one thing on a more personal musical aesthetic-y side of things, for myself, going from this sound, which is probably more authentic to their inspiration, like more authentic to the reason they started getting into making music professionally, to Photograph or to Rockstar, it just feels like the art, like the epitome of quote unquote selling out. Which I don't know how to interpret because I don't know like Nickelback's entire catalog, but I do know that it was a sort of a gradual progression from like grunge to pop. And you know, I think the thing we're all getting at is like we don't want to be bullshitted in our in like presenting yourself and adapting music. Unless that's what you're going for, I guess. But yeah, that's my biggest gripe with the album, is that it feels like everything was, as the cool kids say, mid. Mid and weird and a little disingenuous. Even though it's sort of fun to listen to sometimes. I mean, like, but there's better versions of this out other places. Which
I was literally gonna say the few songs that I liked, or kind of liked, were just the Pearl Jam ripoff songs. So I'll just go listen to Porch by Pearl Jam instead.
Yeah. Alexi, what's your perspective as a enjoyer of Nickelback's newer stuff?
Let's not put that title on you. As a person who knows like 2 songs. First of all, I'd like to note that they wrote the theme song for the first Spider-Man movie, Hero.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful for my heart.
Oh.
I don't even remember if I like that song.
I want
I
a
don't know.
hero to save
Hero to
me.
save
Not
me.
gonna tell
Not
you
gonna
when.
tell you away.
Yeah.
I think it's very I think it's very interesting how much we don't really know about these people.
Mm-hmm.
And looking through the Wikipedia, you just don't hear too much about these guys. And I guess that's to me where I can kind of agree to like, just like, okay, it doesn't
Yeah.
feels genuine or like real or something. Like he played guitar for when he was 13. He sings, they have a band. They made a band. They weren't just like
Yeah, they weren't put together.
produced.
Yeah.
They weren't formulaic and created, which would make more sense. Like this is a band that just kind of become like here, you're the rock band. We're going to give you songs and you're going to make music for the rock people. And they go, love it. We'll take that money. Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say, but it's like, I don't want to make like a bunch of like weird deductions about that I'm going into. Cause I'm definitely getting to parts where I'm just like, they're not industry plants, but they're not, they're kind of just mid people who made success. And that's like, in a way, fine. But like,
It's just confusing
there's also like
in
no
a
real
little way. Like,
yeah, it's like where is this? How did this go? I wonder. I guess I just don't understand. How did they get to so many albums? Like they have
a lot of albums.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Oh, upcoming 10 studios. They have 10 albums.
Mhm.
Like I don't know how the music business works. I don't know if it's just like, yeah, you can just use this rental space. You're on our label. We'll make money. Like, who kept seeing these guys and was like, you're gonna keep doing it and you're gonna make some money. And then when did they start making money and how did they just like, what are we missing? Is it just that the later stuff is so much better and like first albums kind of are doo-doo caca, excluding of course Weeds Blue Album, one of the best albums of all time, which we'll talk about later date. But like, what do we do? Like, I don't know what to say about this. It's just kind of like, what is Nickelback? Who are they? Why do I care? No, I don't. Why do they keep coming up? Like
That, and yeah, that's a big part of this is like they have such cultural relevance to the point that they're memeified, right? It's a mimetic thing. And
there was, I definitely came into this, Manny, thinking, I'm like, are we going to be bullying these guys? Maybe they're not as bad as we think they are. And then you listen and you're like, maybe these guys fucking deserve all this shit.
And part of it is sussing that out, right? Like if we're gonna unsuss something, we still
Great name drop.
We still gotta
Great fucking name drop right there.
If we're gonna unsuss something,
my
we still
God.
gotta suss the things that need to be sussed in order to unsuss it. So, in
an interview in 2014, Kroger commented that the criticism helped him grow a thick skin, and that without it, they would be this just whatever band. But dude, that's kind of what you are. Like,
fuck. That's some real shit you just said.
mean for me to say. I've never made any music. I'm just being an asshole.
No, I mean I like it.
But that's just literally the basis of criticism. It's like you sometimes have to listen to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thick skin argument is always just kind of like, well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're just completely ignoring something. Like,
yeah, finding the heart of the situation is real difficult.
In May 2013, the readers of Rolling Stone magazine named Nickelback the second worst band of the 1990s, behind only Creed.
and that's another thing is like, if it's the hate that Nickelback gets, it's justified and unjustified in very particular ways. Like, they probably get too much, but like some of it is very well deserved. And
I
like,
wonder if it's like this. Is it the two songs I'm like kind of okay with are the singles off the album?
right.
And is it like other pop artists, which I would consider Nickelback to be a kind of a pop artist?
Yeah, I agree.
Later Nickelback for sure.
Yes, yeah.
That they are just they're just as good as their singles. Very rarely, if you deep dive into their album, does it come out as good as it is. Like, here's the good songs we made off this album. There's 12 songs on it. 2 of them are good. The other 10 are filler. Like, is that, I don't know if that's fair to say about all pop music ever, but like sometimes that's just how it is.
Yeah,
And
industry songwriting has that problem. It's gotten better because producers have gotten much better at writing music. Like everyone in every genre space. But
dude, hold on, this is wild. I'm still reading more of this reception thing. In March 2019, U.S. Representatives Mark Pocan, which is Wisconsin's 2nd congressional district since 2013, and Rodney Davis, American Republican politician of Illinois' 13th congressional district since 2013, got into a friendly debate of the merits of the band while speaking on the floor of the House of Representatives. It is such a meme. Even the goddamn old white politicians are making fun of them. Like, that has to say something. That has to say something. I don't know what it's saying. I don't know if it's important to hear what they're saying.
It's saying something.
But, like,
maybe they just
God.
Maybe them being the heel of the
Of
rock
music.
music is just how they're relevant. Like, they're so
That's
middling.
tragic. It's so
Like,
tragic.
You know how it's like there's the... God, she said it perfectly with the heel. Oh my God, I lost it. But yeah, I think it's... the music's supposed to be anti-establishment, and then it became establishment.
That's part of the tension, I think.
Anti-establishment as a heel is like, that's awesome. That's fucking... Who does the RKOs?
Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Randy Orton's such a fucking villain. It's cool. These guys are supposed to be villains and anti-establishment, and it just didn't work, and they became pop artists, and they're not even that good of pop artists.
That's part of it. Yeah.
Oh my God. Call Barack Obama.
We figured it out.
We figured it out.
Andres, I think
fuck.
out of all of us, Andres probably has like the most experience with like Southern rock and grunge, only because you know a lot more about Pearl Jam than I do. And I'm like very well versed in Stone Temple Pilots, but like, even so, this album in particular, does it do anything for you beyond like hint at other artists?
Not really. The guitar tone's kind of cool. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when I was listening, the albums that I don't like really are really just the ones that when I listen to it, I space out and then just think like, I listened to 5 of the same song, basically. What did I just do? This album didn't do that to me. Like,
wow, that's good.
I could tell
it did that
like,
to me.
It was doing it a little bit, but there's enough variation where it was just kind of like, I wouldn't listen to this again, but it's not bad. Like, if somebody played this, I wouldn't tell them like, please just turn this off, or
It truly is the terror of being mediocre.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I don't hate this. I don't feel anything.
Yeah, there's nothing to get from it. I looked at the lyrics to Pusher, and my initial response was, I got nothing from this. Like,
yeah. That's and that's unfortunately like that's characteristic of the entire album. Like, I was like looking through lyrics and I was trying to identify the only other thing about this album, since we will never talk about this album again probably, is Curb, the title of the album, and also the title song off the album, is inspired by Kroger's childhood friend who got in a car accident with another driver, and the other driver in the car accident was Kroger's friend's girlfriend, and his friend killed her.
Jesus.
So, yeah. So, like, and if you look at the lyrics of Curb, it doesn't even do that. It doesn't even tell the story. Like, Pearl Jam so frequently does with their music that has narratives and is inspired by stuff. It doesn't even do that.
That hurts my heart because it feels just disrespectful. It feels just like I'm gonna take this tragedy and use it for my own schemes. Like
that happens,
and that's like it's so disrespectful. Like it's so like crude.
It is. It's very rude. If you do it in a way that like honors is one thing, but like
if you're like, hey, we made these songs about how we feel and we're sad, so we're dedicating to this person because he made us feel this way, blah blah blah. We're gonna even like there's so much you could do that's better.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really unfair here. Compare Curb off of this album to Last Kiss and tell me the comparison, and it will be Last Kiss by Pearl Jam. It will be night and day. Last Kiss is a very similar thing. And lyrically, musically, I can be brought to tears when listening to Last Kiss. I couldn't really even get some of the emotions that are trying to be communicated through Curb. So, and it both has people dying in car accidents. So, I don't know.
I mean, even the Pennywise song "Bro Him," which is like as ridiculous as it gets to like a tribute to your fallen friends, like even that feels like there's some emotion behind that. Like even if it's literally just a bunch of dudes going whoa, like they obviously are trying to write a tribute to their dead friends. Like
yeah. So sorry, Chad, if you're listening. If you want to come on the podcast, that would be really funny.
Honestly,
but
Chad
that'd be pretty cool.
if you want to come on the podcast and like personify yourself, it seems like a lot of the hate for Nickelback is because you purposefully don't do that. Like you want. I think they want Nickelback to be where they're at. Like just the butt of the joke because it gets them known. That's how people know about Nickelback.
They're laughing all the way to their mansion, or like
yes, 100%.
decently upscale house. Probably.
Rockstar happened for them. It's a caricature song. It's like a joke, but it happened for them. So come make a fool of yourself, man. Chad.
I'm gonna say this just to wean us off the top. Open invite for just about most people to come on the podcast and just talk about whatever they're making, whatever they want to do. If they want to suss something out and talk to us about it. If they want us not on the pod and they want to just take over the pod for a week and edit it, I don't think many of us would have objections to that. No. You can totally do that.
Send over your episode.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll see how that goes. But hey, I have a terrible tangent and I don't want to do it. But speaking of car accidents, Andres, can you tell us about Love Life?
Oh my god.
I don't like what I said, but I said it.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's get into the last topic. I anti-recommended the movie Love Live, the school idol movie. When there's kind of a history here. In my peak anime consumption days, which were a couple of years ago, I got super into slice of life anime through Kyoto Animation, and K-On! Became pretty quickly one of my favorite anime ever.
Shout out to Kiani.
Yeah. I absolutely love K-On! And I kept seeing people say, hey, you know what is comparable to K-On! on websites like Reddit? They would constantly say, oh man, I love Love Live and K-On! Because they're such wonderful stories about friendship. K-On! Is possibly one of the best stories about friendship out there. And Love Live is pretty generic in that aspect, if I do say so myself. This is the opinion of me. I don't... You can think whatever you want about it, because I've been getting in trouble with people for expressing my opinions on media lately, but
and that goes for, I think that goes for all of us today, you know.
Oh, yeah. Manny's getting in Twitter fights also.
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
I get in in-person arguments with people.
Yeah. I'll be honest, the first season of Love Live isn't horrible. It doesn't match the K-On! Even in the slightest, but whatever. I'll just run down the concept because you guys aren't really familiar with it. So, main girl Honoka goes to a school that's going to be shut down because there's not enough people trying to enter. She gets two of her friends and says, we're going to be school idols to try to get more people to enter this.
Gross.
They pretty much fail initially, but they're able to recruit.
End of the show. They just lose.
This is real life.
I mean, they put on a performance. Like, the student council doesn't want them to be school idols, whatever. There's a lot working against them. Two people show up, and then it's like, oh, that sucks, but we're still going to perform. Those two people end up joining them, as long with another person. And then they slowly build enough momentum to fill the full band of 9 people. And then they find out about the competition, Love Live, which is basically just a bunch of school idols competing against each other to see who's going to be more popular. First season basically ends when Honoka gets sick and still tries to perform and collapses, and then they get kicked out of the competition, even though they're building up steam. And
damn, spoilers.
Yeah, honestly, spoilers, I don't really care.
Yeah, me either.
I spoiled most of Dune.
Yeah. So that, and then there's some weird thing about they end up saving the school, but one of her best friends wants to leave to study fashion abroad. And it's so weird. Like, it's just really thrown in last minute. And then the season ends with her meeting her at the airport, which I imagine it'd be pretty hard to get out of that. Like, and it's all happening in the middle of the school year. Like, it's so weird.
Oh my God.
It's all very manufactured, which is kind of my main issue with Love Live. But all that stops, whatever. Second season... basically the way every
I love I'm so sorry, just the idea of saying all that stops and which is such a great way to
it's
say
literally
it.
what happened. She stops her at the airport and is just like, please don't go, and then she's like, okay. That's it.
God, dude. Hey, don't follow your dreams.
Yeah, fuck your dreams.
Don't follow your dreams.
We're an anti-dream
friendship.
podcast. We
So
are a
stupid.
pro-friendship podcast, anti-dream podcast.
So the second season starts pretty similar to how the movie starts. Is they do this weird, like, semi-fourth wall break where it's like, there's another Love Live. It's like, oh my God. So basically, second season, they do another Love Live competition. There's like a little discussion about whether or not they're going to perform, and then they eventually do it. And the majority of it is them working towards becoming the best school idol group. The difference between K-On! And Love Live in this aspect is K-On! it becomes a joke basically that they're gonna make it big and play at the big dome in Japan, which is called the Budokan. There's like concert recordings from like Bob Dylan and like pretty massive musicians there.
Full circle with Bob Dylan.
But they never make it, and the point of K-On! Is that they realize that playing with each other is the most important part and the fun part of doing it. My issue with Love Live is that like the whole thing is supposed to be about friendship, but they also become like the number one school idol group, which is weird to me. I don't know, like
it just kind of like happens.
Yeah,
it's not just like a. Is there any point of like a rival school? Is there any point of like actual competition?
Where's the tournament arc?
That it's literally the entirety of season 2. Like they're just competing against the main group that inspired them to be school idols in the first place. Like that's
a archetypal.
It's very shonen-esque, which is very strange about.
Maybe I would like this show.
It's just so, but it feels like it's supposed to be. Love Live is really weird because it's very obviously marketed towards girls. Like it's like there's very little male characters, if any at all. And the one that I can think of, like all the dads are never shown like their face, like only their bodies are shown for some reason. So it's very obviously meant to appeal to girls, but there's also just like this really weird attempt to grab the audience that you see mainly on the internet, which is teenage to like 20-year-old males. It's really weird.
It's well aware that they can market it towards fan service, which is what idols are, right? Like fan service for people for the most part. Oh my god.
But also it's like a whole thing like bringing up bronies. Like I don't think My Little Pony markets towards them. Like I think they just found it and were like, hey, we love this. Like there's just so many small instances of Love Live not knowing or trying to play it both sides. Like
that's fair.
It's really bizarre to me.
How much of what we're talking about right now factors or comes from the actual like teen idol culture in Japan? Because like it is so popular, and there are so many older like we're not talking like 20s, we're talking like 30s, 40s, like older Japanese men who attend.
I'm sure
like
that's what they're reaching for a little bit. Like they want to be that essential McDonald's kids meal for girls type market, while also reaching out to that aisle of people because they know they're going to spend money on it. Like
that leaves a very bad. Well, okay. Even if you
this
don't
is my
consider,
interpretation, at least.
Yeah, even if you don't consider the ethical implications of like idol groups targeting a older male demographic or whatever, like if you leave that out of the equation, it still reads as like a very questionable marketing ploy to an audience that really devalues. It sounds like it devalues the point of the show in a weird way, right? Like if the core is friendship, like I don't know, shouldn't it be focused on that?
think this is, first of all, an initial thought. We should have I want to, if we could, it'd be so funny to invite 3 other people who defend each of the topics we discussed today.
I would love that
It would be
shit.
really funny.
I would love that.
Really cool. Probably won't happen, but that'd be really funny.
We'll do that for
here's
next.
an idea. Here's an idea. The idea of what Nickelback was. Eventually, like Nickelback became this like idea for marketing, and it wasn't conceived that way. I can easily believe Love Live from the beginning was marketing. That they knew exactly who the audience becomes.
Yeah.
That's how I've always seen it. That like, yeah, this is for little girls, but they are not what's happening. Like Pokemon is for the fans who just try and love the game so hard, and that's fine. That's but then they're like, oh, we made the game for kids, and it's like, yeah, and that's your excuse for not developing the game and making it more adult forward so you can just make it easier. That's my cynical take on that one. I can easily see Love Live being like, look, we make hot anime girls and people will be so happy for it and they'll come see our concerts and it'll be great, and it's easy. It's not we don't need to write any plot. No one cares about plot. just make the exact opposite of Dune, and then you'll make money. And that's how I've always seen this.
There's a bit of that in what I've experienced too, just like a tiny bit. So you can approach it from a couple of different angles. You could approach it from the anime side of things, which I won't talk about. Instead, I'll talk about my experience with rhythm games, which is a little relevant here. There's a rhythm game called Bang Dream Girls Band Party, and it's basically
Japanese are so funny when it comes to their titles.
Yeah. And it's basically inspired by like the slice of life music idol group animes. Now it doesn't necessarily have the same problems that Love Live does, and we'll probably touch on some of those problems coming up very soon. But what it does is it definitely panders to that audience of like, and it's a gacha game too. So it's like we are going to put like the cutest girls.
They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're gonna make costumes the gacha part of it, and it's like, okay, unlock this character with this costume, and it's not necessarily a sexual thing, but it is a kawaii thing.
Yeah.
Kawaii.
No,
so and yeah.
To me, it's so hard to separate that idea, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. I don't care for it. I've never really been interested in the kawaii aspect of anything like this. So if I see that, my brain goes. That's from, just to explain my point of view. That's where my brain goes to. I don't ever really care to be like, look how cute this is. Yeah. Isn't this awesome? I'm just like, yeah, like, I don't know. My mind lets it get too gross that what people view it as. It hurts my heart to know that Sunrise makes Love Live.
Yeah.
I think Sunrise is being acquired by Bandai to just become Gundam Studios.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Well, I think they're just Bandai Studios now. Let's get off the weird tone.
Okay,
for now.
That's fine.
Because I can accept that, whatever. Like, maybe not accepted isn't really the word, but it's kind of, it's unfortunately exactly how I imagined it would be when I watched it. Like, it's like, oh man, like I was expecting a little more, but whatever. My fundamental issue with the show, I think, is that the first season, I think, does kind of care about narrative, because a lot of the early episodes are painting how difficult it is to be a school idol. Like, it shows them needing to run and be fit because you need to be able to sing and dance at the same time. Like, it shows it shows like some realistic struggles, and then the comedic timing of the show is always just really strange to me. Like, as soon as things get serious, like, they throw out the stupidest joke they can, which is obviously a trope, but like,
yeah,
it it's not willing to look deeper into anything, which is also one of those things that's like, oh man, this is unfortunately exactly what I thought it was going to be. My real main issue with the show is that you can kind of feel the care for anything but probably selling some gacha stuff just decline from thing to thing. Like first season probably had some like narrative that it wanted to follow. Second season is feels like to me, oh, the first season killed, we got to follow this up. Or maybe they knew the first season was going to kill, so they're like, we're following this up for sure. So I didn't really look at how long it was between things. And then the movie is, to me, the strangest low of the low, because the way the second season ends narrative-wise is three of the girls are seniors, so the school year's over, they're gonna graduate. And they all decide, hey, we're gonna break up the band. The whole band is about us being together. Cool. What ends up, they like do last performance, whatever. The movie starts from that point, and instead of looking at any other part of the story and digging deeper or whatever, the movie starts where the second season ends. And then it's like, hey, you're not done. You guys need to go fly to New York to do something on TV for the US to explain school idols. And then there's a dome competition, another Love Live competition that's bigger in scale and everything like that.
That must be a big slap to the face in terms. Sorry to interrupt. The big slap to the face when you compare it to K-On! A little bit.
That's literally my whole issue with this, is that it gets compared to K-On! And it's nothing like K-On!
It sounds like watered down version of it all.
That's probably generous. It sounds almost like an affront.
Like, oh, take that concept and make money. Okay, cool. That make it so you can make money off it forever.
K-On! Is massively successful in Japan, though. It like, I think at one point was the highest grossing DVD of any anime or something like that. Like,
and the figurines are extremely difficult to find, both in the US and in Japan. They're like really expensive.
So K-On! Is super popular.
Oh, it's got to be. I don't know. This is just maybe Sunrise's attempt to ride that wave, to ride that post-grunge wave.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Sunrise is Chad Kroger.
Damn.
But the movie itself is just so confusing because it just retreads the ground. So I'll just do a quick rundown of the plot. They get that notice. They go to New York. They spend a lot of time looking around New York and traveling, trying to figure out where they're going to perform. Somehow they end up in an empty Times Square. I really want us to watch that performance because it brings up the animation, which is, in my opinion, for the performances, it usually goes to CG, and it looks terrible to me. It looks really bad. And the movie, for those who aren't familiar, anime movies as a format are usually like obviously a scale back in production length, so they're able to put more time and effort and money into this single product. So movies as compared to TV shows, 9 times out of 10 look so much better, like so much care so much more care put into them. This one feels like the show. Like, it's very obvious that they didn't put any extra effort into it. Like, the animation looks the same. The CG looks pretty bad as it does in the show. Like, let me do an aside and look up when this came out, but because I really want to put that context out there.
While you're looking that up, Andres, I'm just gonna have Manny, from shows you've seen that switch from 2D animation to like CG animation. Have you seen any of them do it well?
I've seen, I can't think of any off the top of my head that do it like exceptionally well, but I do know that more recent anime, the point of that switching is to make it as seamless as possible. To like add a little bit of emphasis in certain ways, or to make certain things move in certain fashions.
So it's gotten better.
Yeah, it's gotten much better. But
I know I've seen some where like they make the monsters look CG.
Yeah.
Like in like some like action anime that I've seen, and it just like it takes you out of it. 'Cause you're just like, that a fucking PlayStation 1 dragon? What is that doing here?
Yeah, I mean the where CG excels is in very, very subtle changes to characters that like it's basically meant to like add some depth and some layering that you just can't get otherwise. And so as long as you don't draw attention to it, as long as it happens behind the scenes, it seems pretty useful. But
can we get a bad example of this, Andres?
A bad example of CG? Or
yes.
I actually have a good one.
Hit us with a good one.
There's a lot of things in Kyoto Animation things that you don't realize are CG right off the bat. There's specific scenes in Nichijou specifically that take a really dynamic camera angle towards something that really that are obviously CG, but it's kind of done to a comedic effect, but also it's done pretty well. Like the characters go stiff or whatever, but it's also just kind of textured in a way where it doesn't feel any different. Like,
yeah,
I think that's the main point. Sometimes it's just like I'm looking through examples and there's like a classic pink-haired protagonist girl and she's holding a gun that's like super hyper detailed comparison to like, you know. But yeah, it's like there's a way to do it well, but there's been a lot of them that just don't.
More bad than good, I would say. Up until
and it's gonna
very recently.
New technology, right? New technology takes that time, or using it that way. So I don't know.
Okay, so Love Live came out the main run of Love Live came out from 2013 to 2014. So. And the movie came out 2015. So they were planning this to be pretty big, I imagine. Like you can't produce multiple seasons of anime without thinking ahead like that. They knew what they were doing. Let's watch some very strange CG, shall we?
Let's do
Please
it.
Thank you.
For all of our listeners, we're
gonna link this.
You
can watch it on your own time.
We will not tell you what we're saying. You will just vibe.
We're just gonna watch Nickelback again.
Nickelback CG, Nickelback anime. That's what we need.
Oh God.
I would watch the fuck out of that. Be real.
The first episode is based off that first song from Curb.
This does scream Moe. We'll just put that out
I
there.
don't know what that means.
Definitely.
What does Moe mean?
It's specifically like cute young girl aesthetic, basically.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm an old man.
It's so disorienting to see the 2D and then get bombarded with like a 3D side shot, that fucks me up. In a bad way.
It almost works, in my opinion.
Also, the Times Square thing fucks me up too.
It almost works, but it also looks like a fucking video game. It looks like a pull from a mobile game.
Yeah, or like it's a cutscene.
Yeah.
It's a cutscene. Like I was just saying, the 2D looks great. It's probably, like you said, the same quality as the seasons, but the 3D, when you get a character coming in from the side that has 3D, oh my god, it fucked with my depth perception a little bit. It was really wacky.
And that's kind of what all the performances look like. That there's just some really weird things that go on in this. Like, the performances have nothing to do with anything that's happening in the plot. Like, they'll literally just cut away to something, and like
it's a commercial,
basically. And this is like supposed to be the turning point performance or whatever, because the next scene in the movie is them flying home. When they get home, they're literally on billboards. Like, they're the most famous school idol group ever.
There was no plot. There was like nothing to indicate that whatsoever. There were no people in Times Square.
Yes, that's the really weird thing. Like,
that was a commercial. I don't know how to say it.
The performance itself has no indication that anybody was even watching. And then all of a sudden they come home and they're the biggest school idol act out there. And that
what?
And then
that's messy. That's really messy. That's a messy thing to do.
And then what happens after that is they're forced to reckon with, oh, we're huge, but we're supposed to break up. What do we do? And
what a
then
problem.
Somebody dares say, hey, we could just be regular idols. We don't have to be school idols. And then everybody's just kind of like, it's like, what's going on here?
What's the problem?
That's so unrealistic.
Just do the thing.
Yeah, what? That's so weird. That
it just sounds like, what is the next logical step? Okay, make that into a problem for no real reason. Like, okay, we could just become school. Oh, I don't want to. I want to go to like fashion school. That makes sense. That could have some deep nuance of like, if you show previously the entire time, like, this character, she loves doing this, but like she has other. She did the designs for the outfit.
She literally does. Like, she's the person that makes all the costumes. Like, and she leaves to be fashion because they fucking failed and aren't going to Love Live or whatever. But she has aspirations to do something else. It's like, cool. That makes sense. But like, the entire second half of this movie is them just being like, oh, should we break up? We're massively famous right now. And then the rivals...
You don't want to ride this high for a little bit? Make some money and then pay for all the schooling we need? No? Wow.
The rival school idol group eventually like reaches out to them and is like, hey, we're going to keep going even though some of us are graduating. Like, we're just going to do that. You guys are pretty important to this whole Love Live thing happening. Can you like at least do another performance? And then they all get the idea, hey, let's perform together and then see what happens. And then they...
It sounds very shallow, or like very, not shallow, but hollow. It's like a very hollow plot that's happening, unraveling.
Hollow Live.
What basically ends up happening is the main characters, their group, they stand strong, which is cool, whatever. They're like, yeah, we're still going to break up. But the reasoning is so bizarre. It's just like, we're breaking up because we want to be school idols, and school idols are important to us. We don't give a shit about other idols. Like, and it's like, what difference does it make?
That's so weird.
It's
It almost leads me to believe like that some of the other motive behind it is specifically the school idol, the young idol thing. I know that that's probably not the case, but like there's no other logical conclusion. Like why would anyone like is it trying to be like poetic? Like oh, like this part of our lives is the thing we're trying to capture. But
I think that's what it's supposed to be, but it just ends up not making sense. Like, what difference does it make? Am I missing something? Like, and a note I had after watching this is, I swear you could die from a drinking game of any time they say school, from drinking every time they say school idol. Towards the end of this, it's just like they're just talking about this concept as if it's like some super magical thing, and it's like, sure, I get that's the point of this show, whatever, school idols are magical, but it make like, where is the jump between just a regular pop idol and a school idol? What's the difference other than age? And like,
that's what I was saying.
There's nothing else in the show that ever like points to, hey, this person inspires me because there's nothing in the movie, at least. I haven't watched the show in years, but there's nothing that points to them saying like, hey, these people are as old as me, and I can't really relate to those other idol groups, but I love this one because they're as old as me. There's nothing like that. They just keep talking about school idols being the most important thing out there. And why? It doesn't make sense.
That, I mean, in that context, it seems
it's not even like, is it like a fear of growing up? Is like, did they ever use that angle of like, I don't want to leave school because then we won't be friends anymore, blah 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 blah.
No, that's the issue. That the reason why I love K-On! Is because that's literally what it's about. It's about growing up and being afraid. I mean, that's the entirety of the second season, whether you pick up on it towards, like, that's what it is, and then they make it very obvious at the end, but it's there the entire time. It's like, we're growing up, we're gonna be separated, and I'm really afraid of that.
And it's tied intimately to the beginning of the K-On! Story too. You know, like it's like the friendship, even though this is sort of what's happening in Love Live too, but like the friendship aspect is completely derived around the club.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, the reason they decide to break up is because in the second season, if I remember correctly, is because it wouldn't be the same without everybody. But there's no mention of that here anymore. Like, it's just
so weird. What came out first?
K-On!
K-On! Probably, yeah.
K-On! Was like 2009 to 2011.
And what was Love Live's dates again?
2013 to 2015.
Yeah. So like, oh great, we got some openings in the idol space, even though that K-On!'s not really the idol-ish thing. But
K-On! Is not idol at all. Just putting that out there.
Yeah,
it does not fall in that genre. It falls in the only thing,
in rock band genre.
Yeah,
basically.
They're all playing instruments in K-On!. Like,
Harmonix made K-On!, that's for sure.
The only way that I can rationalize some of the things is that the decisions being made in the plot, based on what you've said, is that it's really just like, let's drill in the marketing aspect of this for whatever it's worth. you know.
The way it resolves is the girls do break up, but this like last performance, as soon as they say they're breaking up, gets like a bunch of people to join in. So it's I'll show you guys.
Are we gonna see some more CG?
Oh, it's a lot of CG and it's even worse.
Are there people at least this time?
There's a lot of people.
I hope
And that's
no
why it
audience
looks so bad.
Oh no, man! Them wanting dynamic angles is destroying what could be like pretty good animation, like passable animation. It's like the angles and needing the CG just fucks it real hard. Like, oh my god, the hair! Don't look at the hair.
Because the hair has to be like one. Are those alpacas?
Yeah.
Okay, you can just freeze frame this. We don't need to watch anything else.
Oh my god, dude. So the way the movie ends is basically it cuts to, I imagine it's probably 2 years later, where all the girls are like fully graduated and Honoka's sister is running the club now. And she says something like, and thanks to one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but you know it's Greek, right? The symbol mu.
Mm-hmm.
The band name is Mu apostrophe S, and every time they say it, it's always Muse, like the fucking rock band. So it's so funny in that aspect. Just like, oh, they don't know about Muse, do they?
Can they just redub this with Supermassive Black Hole and the dancing?
I would love that. I would. Watching this the second time definitely lightened my opinion on the music, because I definitely the first time was like, oh man, this kind of sucks, but at least the music in this movie isn't bad. I'll give it that. But
yeah, I mean the music of Idol music is generally pretty decent. Maybe everything else is questionable, but
yeah, Muse comes and saves the contest of Love Live. School idols are here to stay, and the best thing in the world is basically how it ends. And then they talk about their final solo performance to some really bad CG because they need more dynamic angles. And then the movie just ends on a shot of their like practice clothing on the floor for some reason. And it's a significantly long shot.
They got Midsummar'd.
They
just died out and had like a giant orgy in the
oh my god.
It's a full 2 minutes of just a still image being panned up.
That's a really weird choice. Like even a single picture of them, like a picture that they had of them practicing would have been way more effective than the clothing. Unless
or if they were in the clothing and they're just like laying there like the classic anime shot of everybody just laying down like kind of asleep with their eyes closed. Like that's as generic anime as it gets, but it would probably work better than this. Like yeah. I can go on for a really long time about the plot not making sense. There's a character.
I don't need more.
There's literally a character that is not explained. People basically
like the cousin or something.
She's like, it's like implied she's the main character's future self or something. She's like,
yeah, I remember this.
She's like the guiding voice or whatever for her. She basically, what happens is Honoka gets lost in New York. She finds some random person busking, and then the person for some reason knows exactly where she's going. she gets unlost by meeting up with her friends at the hotel they're staying at. And everybody's like, she says like, oh, let me, like, there's somebody back there. Like, I need to talk to her or whatever. And they're like, we didn't see anybody. And it's just like, what? What's going on here? And then the iconic shot of her holding the mic stand and there being a cross there for some reason is just my favorite.
Yeah,
my favorite thing. And then
is it like meant to be like guardian angel reference? Is that
I
the
think
idea?
so.
No one walks with that. No one covers their knees while walking. I don't know why that bothers me so much.
I've done it before and I do not recommend it.
And then basically she comes back once she's having her crisis of whether or not to keep the band together. And then she tells, and the mystery busker future guardian angel person tells her like, you can fly, you can do whatever you want. cut to the first scene of the movie where she just like falls into a puddle trying to jump over it, and then magically is running less fast and is able to like jump over the puddle. It makes no sense. And then based on that, she tells them, you can fly. And then they decide to break up the band. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, that seems like it had the opposite effect of what needed to be.
Oh my God.
What the guardian angel would have done. It's strange, and I wish it
I'm reading comments on Reddit about exactly this subject. When she was in America, she was real, but when she appears in Japan, she is not real. You can see that, you can imply that this is part of her dream.
Damn, it's The Wire, dude. We're in The Wire right now.
The cop show?
No, well, might as well be. I was
Present
thinking
day.
more
Present
time, boy.
It
And you don't seem to understand.
It's a serial.
My opinion of Love Live is I'll never watch it. I have nothing else to say.
As someone who's into it, I as someone who's into moe things that are done well, I wouldn't watch this either. The plot is like a mess, and you can get your fix other ways.
This is Moe for Moe's sake, and I think that's pandering. And I don't like. This feels just like lowest effort possible.
If you're gonna watch Love Live, just stop at the first season.
Damn.
It's fine. It like actually, they don't get what they want truly at the end, and then they learn a lesson from it. That's cool. Whatever. It's not great, but I can deal with it. But the fact that they're like just this biggest thing, and then for no reason other than they want to be school idols, not regular idols, they just throw it away. It's like, what? Why? What? Like everything, every project from season 1 on just seems to undermine the other one. It makes no sense why you would purposely just go against anything that you had already done before.
I'm gonna ask people I know if they like Love Live and just see what they get out of it.
A lot of people have jumped ship from it, but a lot of people have jumped on ship. So
The former fans of Love Live are the new fans of Dune.
Oh my God.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. That's the greatest joke I've ever made in my life. I'm gonna be honest. I think this is pretty fun. Simply because we got to like really look at things in a different aspect and not feel and have like multiple subjects, and made me hate Love Live more than I already did. Like, I And I'm also glad I got to hear other opinions about how Dune affected you guys. Because again, I feel I didn't have much. The people I interacted with really loved it, and I just felt like I was an asshole for not liking it.
Validation.
I just have an
Nickelback
issue with a lot of
feels
new
great.
movies, if I'm being honest. So whatever.
Is Nickelback better than Jackass?
No.
Damn.
Nothing's better than Jackass.
An entire Jackass movie that has Nickelback as the soundtrack.
Oh no. For next April Fools,
Yeah,
I'm gonna unrecommend.
Let's do it. Let's do it that way. I like that shit.
Oh my god.
Next April Fools, we are gonna have a different format, maybe.
Yeah, we'll try something different. Maybe. I don't know. It'd be fun to
The joke is we won't.
It would be fun to do something else, but this is probably going to be what it is.
Exactly.
It would be fun to have 6 people on, and 3 people who really love the thing, and 3 and
a debate.
Yeah, like a little debate. That would be sort of cute.
Talk about stuff. That'd be pretty.
It's
funny.
not really April Fools, but
yeah, April Fools, whatever we want it to be.
All right.
I'm a fool for you. Let's hit plugs.
Sussed Pod on everything.
.com.
On everything.org.
Watch K-On! We'll probably do an episode on it, but that show means a lot to me.
Go watch Serial Experiments Lane. Yeah, that's my plug.
Listen to Pearl Jam instead of Nickelback.
Yeah, that's a great plug. Go listen to Stone Temple Pilots.
Local business.
Go watch Solo instead of Dune.
Yeah.
Hey, that's an opinion of Alexi's we've established.
Go
by the mathematical properties of this episode.
Go read Dune if you are a huge fan of sci-fi.
George, are you gonna go finish Dune? You think you'll finish it?
All of this resurgence of everything has made me want to start reading again, but I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Durs, are you gonna go finish watching Dune?
Maybe.
Was my initial question.
I thought you said, are you gonna finish the book?
I was gonna come back to you. I'm sorry, we keep cutting you off, as usual.
Keep cutting your friends off when they're trying to talk.